Welcome everyone. This is episode 31 of the Contextual Podcast. What a time to pick to do a podcast, and what a person to have on at the same time to discuss what's just happened in the last 2 hours. We've got a very good friend of mine on, Mr. Dave Horrocks from the Grassroots Coachcast. Me and Dave go back a long way, which we'll get into on the podcast. So welcome, Dave.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks for having us on. And as you say, timing couldn't be better. So I'm looking forward to talking about this one.
Well, Dave is a massive Liverpool fan. And just before we came on air, Dave has already said he's treading very carefully because Liverpool are actually playing Southampton and they're a bogey team. But before we discuss Dave and his podcast with Ben, we're going to discuss what's just happened at St James's Park. And as a United fan, all I can say is that was terrible. Dave, give us your thoughts, mate.
Well, hand on heart, I didn't actually watch the match, but I did have it on the old BBC text. And of course, you know, it's Rafa Benitez, isn't it? So, you know, I hold him in an incredibly high esteem. I honestly think it was a massive mistake for us to get rid of him. And I think he's been a bit unlucky with the various chairmen and owners that he's had. So the fact that, you know, he's pulled out a result today is not a massive surprise. And it's just going to be hard for me to stop smiling, to be honest. But for our game...
He's so glad you haven't got your face on this podcast. I can't believe what I've just witnessed. And to be fair, other than we had a very, very good chances a few times, but they just outbattled us again. We at times games like this, we've just got no backbone, and it's just awful. Like Smalling and Jones, I say it every week, but there's no confidence in what they're doing at the back. So whoever's in front of them must think, what are these two pair of idiots going to do? Because there's just a calamity waiting to happen. Absolute shocking.
I guess you've watched like Smalling. I've heard you say a few times that Smalling's pretty terrible, but it didn't seem that long ago. He seemed to be the best thing in sliced bread. So what's gone on there? Well,
I think he had like half a season where he was very good. And I think it was when Van Gaal was there, the second season with Van Gaal, he was very, very good for about 6 months. And, you know, there's no getting away from it. He started thinking, this is why, you know, we've bought him. He's looking like the player finally. And obviously with him being English as well and not having, other than when obviously Terry and Ferdinand retired, there wasn't much knocking about. You know, Jackie Elka was in and out of the team and things like that. And then you had like, obviously, Gary Cahill playing. Mm-hmm. And then he seemed to fit in nicely, strong, powerful, quick. But it's just his distribution that is terrible. And it's a bit like what I used to say this about Ashley Cole. Ashley Cole's a great fullback going forward, but his pace, like Every did for us, his pace got him out of a lot of situations. Yeah. And then once his pace went, like Evra, that's like he started getting sussed out the last couple of seasons, as much as I love Evra as a person. And that's like Ashley Cole. And it's like that with Smalling. He's not lost his pace, but once that goes, he's just not a good footballer. And it's like, it's so poor what happened there today. We got our just desserts. It was just stagnant crap football, and there's nothing. You just can't. I can't sit here and moan and groan about it because we got what we deserved, and that was nothing. You know, John Joe Shelby, Lord Voldemort, had a game of his life again against us, and got man of the match, unfortunately. And I hate that guy, but he never stole me.
Oh, look at that! We've just scored! Brilliant. Oh God!
This is like Soccer Saturday gone wrong, Contextual Podcast style, isn't it? What?
Unbelievable, Jeff.
And we pan over to Chris Phelps in the studios in Urmston.
So look, if we can trust anything, our defence will not keep a clean sheet. So there's a long time to go yet.
Yeah, exactly. Well, obviously, I got Dave on, and I'm quickly moving on from United.
Let me just say, though, I mean, it's all a moot point anyway, isn't it? I mean, City have won the league.
Yes.
And to be honest, the difference between second and fourth, to me, I couldn't care less, to be honest. But it is going to be 4 out of 5, isn't it? So
yes,
it's most likely between, you know, Liverpool, Spurs and Chelsea that those last 2 spots are going to go. I think United have got enough to get second. But like I say, who cares? Second to fourth, it's a Champions League spot, isn't it?
Yeah,
So yeah, I mean, great timing, like I say, and having a massive Man United fan and a big Liverpool fan on the same podcast. It's like Romeo and Juliet, isn't it? You know, it's like just without the eloping stuff, you know.
I don't know how to answer that, Dave, because I'm on the back foot with this one today. It's proper. I was thinking, well, we've got a good chance of winning, so maybe I'll be in a good mood. I mean, I'm laughing and joking about it because there's no other way for him. But it's just like, and then Brad, my other friend, he wanted to come on, and he's a big Liverpool fan. Goes to all his games.
He's up now, isn't he?
He's so glad that he didn't come on. This would have just been a disaster.
I tell you what, though, Chris. I lived in Manchester for like, what was it? It was over 10 years when United were just absolutely sweeping it up. So, you know, I've had my fair share as well.
Yeah, to be fair, yes, because me and Dave were actually in a band together for a long time, and one of the things I'd said to Dave was, we've got some cracking stories about the band, but probably nothing that we can actually put live, but just bizarre stuff. And that's one of the reasons me and Dave become such good friends, you know, because we were there for, it must be about 4 years in the band together, Dave, something like that.
It must have been something like that, yeah.
Some bizarre. So Dave's a very, very good bass player, and obviously I'm just the gobshite at the front. Oh, yeah, no, you are a very good bass player, and it's like, you know, when we were going around the northwest every weekend for like, you know, tuppence halfpenny and a can of Coke or something, doing these gigs that we used to do. I look back now thinking, what the was I doing with my life? I mean, I love the singing and everything, and then Dave has obviously started a podcast himself because he's a coach for. Is it, what age group is your?
So it's under 10s girls.
Yeah.
And my co-host on the Grassroots Coach Cast, so he's doing under 10s boys, and we both. So I've got a lad in under 8s as well, and he's got his daughter. I forget which age group it is exactly, but she's training with Wimbledon at the minute, and so we've both got, you know, a son or daughter that we're coaching, and then, you know, we've got one who's still involved in football that we're not coaching, and so, you know, we again, like yourself, you know, we've known each other for a really long time, and you know, we'd started off on this coaching journey, and we were communicating pretty much multiple times every day, pretty much, talking about, you know, how are you doing this? How are you handling this? And crikey, that's a bit of a surprise, isn't it? And I think it was over Christmas. We just talked about, you know what, this stuff that we're discussing, it's probably interesting to other people. And also, you know, even just you go forward 10 years or whatever, it'd be interesting for us as well to look back, and, you know, hopefully we know a bit more then than we do now, but to actually have something like a podcast that we can listen back to and think, oh crikey, why did I do that, you know?
yeah
so yeah, and you know, we started up recently, and it's going pretty well.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, I've listened to it. Obviously, people say I'm going to be biased, but I think that the difference is, Dave, as I said to you privately, is because of your background in working in sort of music and stuff, and your background with music and producing stuff when we were together in the band, you can see the difference. And like I've stolen some of the things, like you were saying, like the subbing stuff. I never mention people to sub and review, and it's a great little thing that you've put together. So if anyone's out there listening, I'd definitely give it a follow and give it a listen, because I've been listening every week. And you know, obviously, I have an interest of sorts because Jordan played. She's like 17 now, but she did play at United for a while, and then she played for girls' teams and boys' teams all the way up to when she left school. So I understand what you're saying. I never ever missed any football tournaments, even in school time. When she was in school hours, I was always there. The flexibility of my job meant I could be there, so I didn't miss anything. So I understand from your point of view and from Ben's what that's like, and even to the point where I was sort of taking some of the coaching side of it and everything, and just sort of helping the managers out as best I could, because, and it's no disrespect, we used to do it. So when I used to listen, you would get some of them asking, what do you think? What do you think this? You know, I know it doesn't always mean I'm right, but to listen to your podcast is great as a parent who sort of past it now, but still laughing and having it as a sort of vested interest. And then you've got a very, very good retro section as well, where you do like a retro rewind. I'm still a bit iffy about the Alan Hansen one on the first episode, but Ben's a Liverpool fan as well. And then we've had a Gaza one, retro rewinds, and that was a great one with the Gaza thing. Some great little stories there, and the quiz at the end, which I think I got about 2 right, so I didn't get anything.
You're better than me. I mean, I put those questions together, and I was going through just thinking, you know what, I'd have no prayer if I wasn't sat in front of Google. You know, so I wouldn't have got it. So Ben's going to try and stump me on the next one, I think, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to get 0 out of 5, but let's see.
No, it's good. It's really good. And one of the things we're getting Dave on as well is we're going to talk about Dave's gaming career, shall we call it, Dave? Because what's happened is me and Dave were always pretty close when we was in the band, and obviously Dave moved from Manchester to his job, and we sort of played football a lot together as well when we was in the band. So we were, you know, always sort of the social scene as much as being together like that. We kept in contact, but the last couple of years we sort of drifted apart. So Dave started listening to this podcast, some belting one-liners I was getting through on Facebook when he was listening to it, and he said something about which I absolutely pissed me. So I can't paraphrase it correctly, but it was something about the toxic nature of the Pro Evo community and how it's a shit show and stuff. And it was just ace, the comment. And from there, Dave's been listening. So obviously I wanted Dave on to talk about his gaming stuff. So we had a little chat before. But take it away if you want, Dave, whatever, you know.
I just while we were talking about the quiz, though, I was thinking, because I had to rack my brain, and I'm terrible. You know, you get older, don't you? And you think you always remember everything, but you don't. Do you remember where we met? Where we actually met for the first time face to face?
It's got to be.
There we go. He stumped him.
One at a wedding. Someone's wedding.
No. I think it was the Navigation pub in Altrincham.
Oh, was it a meeting we set up?
You and Aidan came down because again, you know, you've known people for so long, and you think, Christ, where do we actually meet? And I think you guys were looking for a bass player, and I was looking to get into doing, you know, more of a covers band and everything. So I'm pretty sure it must have been something like Loot. Remember, you know, the free ads. It must have been something like that. So. Yeah, just had a beer, and the rest is history, as they say.
I wish you'd never listened to that ad, yeah.
No, it was very good fun. Really enjoyed it.
It was good fun, and one of the things me and Dave had common ground on, actually, before we get into the gaming stuff, is our love of The Office and David Brent. And they're just, I mean, the other lads in the band didn't really get it at the time, and sort of they, like Aidan and that, he's watched it now, realising like what we were going on about and how ridiculous Ricky Gervais's comedy is. And Dave will just drop one-liners through text messages to me and stuff like that. And it's just ace. It's just absolutely comedy genius, absolute comedy genius. Even the new film's brilliant.
It is. I mean, when I first saw it, I probably had the same reaction. I was like, you know, it was so... What's his name? Jonathan Ross. I think he has a phrase that's like buttock-clenchingly embarrassing. You know, so he's watching it, and it's just a bit too close to people you know in real life, and I couldn't watch it. Yeah. And then I think probably a few months after that, you know, the penny dropped, and then it was just the funniest thing on TV. And again, you know, getting back to our band experiences, you know, you see him trying to promote himself, get himself signed. Well, all of that just absolutely resonates. You know, he thinks he's going to be out there getting signed, doing stadium tours and stuff. And the reality is, you know, he's playing to no one. And the promoters only put you on because they want you to get people in at like £4 or £5 on the door, you know. So, it's just brilliant.
And that's what we used to do. Like, I used to do most of the promoting when we first had the band before Dave joined. I used to do a lot of, we used to have an agent who we'd sort of go with, and then I'd sort of gazumped him and started going on my own and ringing him direct and getting pubs on my own and just getting lists of pubs around the Northwest area. And it went from there. And we'd have gigs where, like that, the David Brent thing, we'd have a gig where it'd be absolutely hammered and it'd be like, some like little, not think about it, some rammed pub like in Oldcombe, like the Wheat Sheaf or something like that, and you'd be absolutely loving it. And then the next night, you'd be in a pub with like two men and a dog or something, you know, with a fire going, and you'd be like, what am I wasting my time for here? And it's exactly the same. The landlords and landladies are just a cliche. You could write them down, and
yeah.
You know, the accent might change and the scene might change and stuff like that, or the pub, but it's the same stuff, the same chat, the same, and honestly, unbelievable. He couldn't put it down. And some of the comedy stuff that we've talked about over the last couple of weeks is just, it's mind blowing.
I like the fact that he's going on his tour. He's got a tour bus and everything, but all the gigs are in like a 10-mile radius around Slough. And the sound engineer's like, oh, I'm checking out. I only live 4 miles away. You know?
Wasting all his money and everything.
Just, yeah, cashing in all his pensions and stuff. It's brilliant. So good.
Oh, it's absolutely ace, mate. Ace. So that was just a bit of a background on like with me and Dave and our sort of warped sense of humour and stuff. But regarding gaming, what was the first sort of games consoles that you can remember, Dave?
So, you know, I think I've said to you before, sometimes I think I should live in a museum, not like go and live there, but actually be placed in there as an exhibit. So I think when we spoke before, the first one I remember actually owning was an Acorn Electron. But I thought, no, hang about. There was the old Atari. Do you remember those? Yeah. The Atari with the ping pong?
Yeah, I had the 2600 Atari, me.
That's the one. So, you know, you've basically got a tennis game with a square in the middle. But I just remember that. And I don't think I owned that. I think it might have been my uncle's or something like that. And I just remember straight away I was hooked. You know, it was like sorcery. The fact that, you know, you've got this little, you know, what we now just call a joystick, but this, you know, when you're a kid, it's like this stick and I'm moving it and it's controlling stuff that's happening on the TV. What is this sorcery like? You know, so I think I've always had that gaming head. And my mum and dad, I mean, we never had any money growing up, to be honest, but my mum and dad had put together and got this Acorn Electron. And to this day, I still rib them a bit about it because they said to me, you know, because all my mates had Spectrums. Remember the old Spectrums?
Yeah, Spectrum.
Yeah. Well, they were great for games, but the Acorn Electron was good if you wanted to do your own programming. So apparently the guy at the shop was like, well, you know, this one will be better if you want a game, and this one will be better if you want to do programming. And I think, to be fair, my mum and dad probably said the answer that they'd like. You know, they really want him to be into programming and really smart and everything. So yeah, we'll go for the programming one. So but it still had some good games on it. It was things like Chucky Egg. I used to play for days on end, and all things like Yi-Ar Kung Fu. Football games weren't really good enough on that platform.
Yes,
it was only a bit later where they started, you know, getting a little bit better. But then I think a few years later, I think I might have had a Commodore 64 and then moved on to an Amiga 500. So I actually bought that with my own money. I'd saved up and I had a load of Christmas money. I think I sold something or other, but I remember I bought it on my own, and it was such a leap, you know, then the football games actually started to look and feel like football games. Yeah. And I think I've admitted to you before, and it is a bit of a shame that I have, but I did own a copy of the Man United game.
Dave, it's all right. You can tell me all about it. Go on.
I'll say this in when I'm not in a crowded room. So yeah, but the thing is, the graphics and everything were just so good, and it was the first time I'd ever seen like the players that had those digitized faces. You had, I'm sure it was like Viv Anderson and Neil Webb and Clayton Blackmore, people like that who were on there.
Yeah,
but it was a really good game. And but if you have a look on YouTube now, it looks so archaic. You're like, Christ, that looked amazing at the time.
Yeah, it's strange. Did you have a Sensi? You must have had Sensi, Dave, if you had an Amiga.
Yeah. So when I got into once I got over that shame of the Man United game, I think the games that I absolutely remember, Kickoff was
game.
Massive for me. And there were loads of different versions of it. I think they had one like was Player Manager.
Yeah.
And but still very, very similar, but you couldn't really miscontrol the ball. It was still, you can run left, right, up, down, or diagonal. Those were the directions you could go. But sensible soccer, that was great. And it was a little bit weird, wasn't it? It was a bit strange at first, that real overhead view. And then the amount of, that inhuman curl that defies physics. That you can just bend it, right in the top corner. But once you got the hang of it, it was pretty good there.
It was. I always remember on the Amiga. I played it on the Amiga and a Sensi. I was terrible at Sensi when it first came out. I could never score on it, because of the aftertouch. Like Kickoff's aftertouch was more pronounced, and Kickoff's view, the bird's eye view, was more zoomed down on the player. Yeah. Obviously, Sensi, you had that sort of bird's eye, but you could sort of see the whole of it. Was a bit of a weird angle with Sensi because you can always see the players' bodies, which is a bit bizarre because it's supposed to be from above.
Yeah.
But I remember on the SNES playing Kickoff 3 at my friend's house, and he scored what still goes down as one of the best ever football goals I have ever seen on a computer game. The left foot volley for about 30 yards. Did you see the Villa game before?
No, I didn't see it.
Well, Villa got the second goal. I was watching it before that disgrace came on at St James's Park, but I watched the end of it, and Villa scored about the 80th minute, and it was very similar. It was like a left foot sort of dipping half volley, but just a cracking goal. But to see it on a computer game, I remember me, my brother, my mate, just jumping up out of our chairs. We'd never seen, and I'm sure then you could actually save the replays of the goals. I think it was one of the first games where it was on the SNES. It didn't have a lot, but I'm sure you could save replays of goals, and it was one of them goals that just went down in sort of folklore between me and my friends as the game. I mean, I've got Super Kickoff for the Mega Drive in there, and when I've played it recently, I'm like, oh my word, what is this? But when I was a kid, the same as you, them sort of games were just synonymous because there was just nothing. There was nothing out there that ever made any sense. Platformers were coming out of your ears, like Mario and all the clones that followed off it. But football, like you said, there was nothing that felt like football. It was usually these sprites just going like this across the screen and juddery, and there was no impact to the tackles. And Kickoff and Sensi brought a sort of realism with tackling and sort of physicality that there wasn't in any sort of game up to that point. And I'd like to say the Amiga 500 was an unbelievable computer. Brilliant.
I think both Kickoff and Sensi, they like you said, the ball started to move. They started to get the physics right. And I'm just talking as an end consumer kind of thing, but like I say, with the Man United game earlier, as soon as the ball got close to a player, it's like it just got sucked into the player's foot, and then it was stuck onto the player's foot until they kicked it. And the way the ball moved, it was just very odd and jarring. Whereas, like I say, with Kickoff and Sensi, the ball actually, apart from the ridiculous, curl that you could put on, the ball actually started to move like it was actually a real ball.
Yeah, Yeah, it had its own entity, and I agree with that. I very much agree. It felt like a lot of games, even games after that, the ball was stuck to him like glue. So it'd be literally until you sort of passed it or you did an action as such, the ball would then become free for you to sort of battle. I remember European Club Soccer on the Mega Drive, a side-scrolling bloody football game, and that was very much a great game, and I loved it. Mm-hmm. But when you play it now, you realise that the ball was just basically attached to whoever.
Yeah.
Because I agree with that. So where did you go from there then, Dave, with the Amiga?
So I think it was a little bit after that the kind of Sega Master System came out. So that 8-bit Master System, and again, the thing is, as well as like the home computing, I was really happy to go to the arcades and just spend all my mum and dad's money there, and anytime we went on holidays or anything, I'm sort of eyeing up the nearest arcade. And when the Master System came out, the kind of the marketing pitch around it, or just discussing with people as well, that, you can't do anything with it other than play games.
Yeah.
And I'm sort of sat there scratching my head like, right, what's the problem there then? That's all I ever want to do with a computer, to be honest with you. Because these weren't as you're not an adult, you're not trying to, put your monthly finances together in Excel or anything. You're just a kid, you just want to play games. So went ahead and got that. And it was brilliant. Again, it was just another leap up in just the graphics and the playability of those games, and things that I remember. Well, I'll say about the football first, but the Temco World Cup 90. Did you play that one?
I had it, yeah. I had that one.
Yeah. So that was good fun. And again, I that in and around World Cup 90, I was pretty much football mad. So I just played that a lot. But I mean, there were some great games. You remember things like Double Dragon and Golden Axe and
got Double Dragon in there, Dave.
Yeah, you used to probably play them all now, but I just played them all the time. When I got a little bit older, I did want to, I did hold a dream about playing professional football. But if I'd have actually just got out there on the pitch rather than playing it on the computer screen, I'd have got a bit closer. But I had just played, left to my own devices. I just play these games from the moment. Certainly when you're on holiday, just from the moment I get up to when I go to sleep, pretty much just brief interlude to grab something to eat.
Yeah, and I think as well, most modern era people now, obviously like Jordan's 17 and all she's ever known is playing online, but like you hit on a very good point actually, because money was tight. I mean, it is tight now for people and that, but most kids now, whether the mums and dads have, scrimping and saving, they've all got games consoles and Xbox Live or PlayStation, PS, Sky. PlayStation. Yeah, Sky. They've got Sky, everything. Like we didn't have. So I agree with you. So I would be the same. If I went to Spain, we had an arcade machine. I've mentioned it before. Arcade was there, and we used to just go up. We'd have a meal, and we'd be just levering this meal dead quick in Spain, in Benidorm. And the next week, my dad would give us 100, 200 pesetas. It was 25 pesetas a go. So you get like 8 goals on a machine, and we would just literally run up the WrestleFest, the Striker games, Street Fighter, all these sort of games. We would go because you couldn't play them sort of games at home. It was like Stretford Sports Centre to me had Street Fighter and Final Fight. And I've said it before, I used to play Street Fighter for ages after playing football on the Saturday morning. But you'd have to save to go on it because you couldn't afford every week to be going in there. And then in Altrincham, where I went to school, there was a newsagents where everyone used to just go in, and I never did this, to be fair. I mean that sincerely, but everyone used to just go in and rob this store because everyone would be piled round the arcade machines. There was Final Fight, Street Fighter, there was all Turtles in Time, which was a great game, the 4-player, and they used to have it in a little corner in Altrincham bus station, and everyone used to just go in, and you just get loads of people going in, just nicking Mars bars and running, and because the owners couldn't catch you because there was that many kids in there after school, we were all in there playing it. And they're the sort of things that now, as much as gaming's evolved, and it's why I love playing the retro stuff, because it means something in my life, as in it meant I was somewhere in time where probably with rose-tinted glasses on, you know what I mean, thinking it was amazing when it probably an awful game or whatever, but it just means something. Like you said, hunting out an arcade machine, that's the first thing I would do if I went on a campsite or a caravan site or wherever. Not a campsite, caravan site. I'd always go to think, where the hell's the arcades? What games have they got? Like 1942, you know, the playing game, the 1942, and to play that for. And there's a horrible cabaret place in Benidorm called the Jamaica Bar, and we used to go in, and that's the only game they had 1942 on there, 1943, right. And we used to just pile around it because we were just hoping my dad would give me some money because it was just too much. This Spanish guy with leather pants on called Juan Carlos, like this thing in the Pet Shop Boys, like, and he'd be like, "What are you?" Actually sounds better than me, that. Juan Carlos, he wasn't the king or wanker, but he had leather pants on, and he used to chat up all the young girls in there, literally young girls. When I look back now, you're thinking, you definitely Operation U-Tree. But anyway, But this machine was the only thing that was in this place that was meant something to the kids, and we used to just sit there for hours playing it because he was like, it's like torture being in this place. But there was the one saving grace. I hope there's no more kids in there because we can't get on it. So it just means so much to me, gaming, and that's like you saying it's just sparked off a lot of stupid memories, really.
It's like music, isn't it? I mean, I you know, even just talking to you now, I'm thinking back to the different games. I remember there was a boxing game that I was quite liked, and you know, that boxing game taught me that Cubans are pretty good at boxing. You know, I had no idea about it before, but you know, who's Cuba? Well, that seemed pretty good.
And the Olympic boxing, amazing. Yeah. It's strange. Like did you ever play? We used to play a lot of the golf games and stuff like PGA Tour golf on the Mega Drive. That was one, and I had a world-class leaderboard, Arnold Palmer golf. I mean, we had great golf on the Master System, and it was a terrible game. But even to this day, probably 30 years now, Dave, God's on his truth. It didn't have much speak in it, but if you did a shot that went on the fairway, it was like an Asian woman's voice go, "Great shot," and you'd be like, "What the hell?" But when you were a kid, that was it, you know. Like, and then I don't know whether it was PGA Tour golf on the first ones. It might not be that game, but he used to say if you did a shot that way into the bunker, it'd come on the guy. Now he goes, this is my impression of it, but the guy'd go,
hey, this is going to be a bit Brent, isn't it? Go on.
Yeah, you ready for this? I thought you meant Southampton had scored, so he used to come on and go. I used to go, no doubt about it. That's deep in the sand trap. And we still say it. Me and our Adam still speak to each other with just random game comments out of games. Like we bought a game called Pigskin Football. And I remember cycling to Urmston and used to trade 2 of your top games in for one game. This guy was just like on an absolute fucking gold mine because all the kids are going in and not telling the parents. And we were like getting on my bike or getting the bus and having to walk because we couldn't afford the rest of the way into Urmston. And we used to call him Eddie Royal because he looked like the guy of EastEnders, Eddie Royal. He was the landlord of the Queen Vic. Anyway, we used to go in and we bought this game, Pigskin Football. And my dad's like, right, go and get a good game we can all play. And we come back with this Pigskin Football, and it was like John Madden's, but like they were all sort of big thugs and monsters and stuff like this, and like there was bombs going on, and there was this thing where like you got the ball, and the quarterback, who was like some sort of lizard or something, would go over here, and you were like, "What is this?" And like it's one of the things doesn't mean anything, but in our family, I remember my dad walking in going, "What the fuck is this shit you just bought?" And he went, "Get back to that shop now." He said, "Get a proper game." And we had to go back and plead with this guy because I thought if my dad goes in, he's going to go. But we bought this game because someone at school had said it's a great game, and it was awful, Dave. And it's just them quirky things. But gaming chat is still relevant in our family because we just drop stupid one-liners in from games that like no one else would be like, "What is he talking about?" But to us, it's just stupid comments. Like, I know I've gone on a segue, but there's one in Turtles in Time, right? And do you ever remember? Do you ever remember Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? Yeah, Turtles in Time. So you used to have a 4-player. There's actually a machine at the Trafford Centre near us, and it was you used to play them all: Donatello, Michelangelo, Leonardo, and all that stuff. Raphael, I better get all 4 of them in. And was a big fan of the Turtles. They're like
it's very impressive, that, Chris. For
yeah, you like that? Yeah. Very impressive. Well, even more impressive, Dave. Bit of trivia.
Look out, ladies.
Who's Master Shredder's voice? You should know this, Dave.
Oh, come on. No idea.
Master Shredder. Uncle Phil of Fresh Prince.
Oh, really?
Jake yeah, he was Master Shredder. Get those turtles! But anyway, we've got a drink, Dave. That's how bad it is. But we used to play it, and Bebop and Rocksteady were obviously Shredder's sort of cronies. They were 2 humans who got turned from humans when the mutant thing come down and changed the turtles into human turtles or big turtles, whatever. They became the rhino and like the hog, didn't you, like the pig. So these are bit in Turtles in Time, and our Adam still says it to me, like when, you know, I've been blinded doing his edit, and they used to fall down the sewer. So the sewer thing had come up, so there's a hole there, and they'd fall down the sewer, and you see these little eyes, and Bebop, this has gone down the proper way tangent. Bebop and Rocksteady would just go, who turned the lights out? And I went to the Trafford Centre and played it in there a few months ago. And I remember our kid used to always say, who turned the lights out? And then he'd go, Christian's a dick. Like that. And it used to be like this stupid thing. And he still says it to this day. He's 37 years old. It's just like, what? He's 38 years old. And you're like, what is going on here? That, Dave. Sorry, I've gone off on one of my.
No, it's good. It is about sharing that experience, isn't it? You know, and you do get silly little things like that. Oh, but you know what I miss? I when you were talking there, I was thinking I miss the bad English translations. Do you remember those? Because they've got it nailed now, haven't they? You know,
yeah.
But it used to be just, and as a kid, you could never figure out, you know, why is this garbled English? You know, and you realise, you know, it's a Japanese translation, and they've not quite nailed what it is they're trying to say.
Yeah,
but, that's something you don't see anymore.
It's funny that you're right, because you would get games like, I'm sure Wonder Boy or Alex Kidd for the Master System, they were translated down, and I know what you mean. It's like if we're trying, or like me or you, if you're trying to work out what something means on a site, like obviously now Google just auto translates it, but originally you couldn't translate, and even now it doesn't always make sense when you read it back. But it's like that, like someone's going to Google Translate and it's just copied it word for word, and then you'd be like, I don't understand what that means at all. You know, like go to the castle, rescue sword man at gate or something like that, and be like, I don't understand what that means. You know, just put this light on the bloody bulb, the lighting's going. But yeah, it's I know exactly what you mean. I'm proper smiling because it's just ridiculous stuff that kids these days would not have a clue what we're talking about.
Oh, really? Radio. No, it is good. I'm quite jealous. I haven't got the old retro stuff set up, but I've heard you reference California Games, which was another one I used to love. It, the old hacky sack, which I still don't know if people actually call it that over in the States, but you know, that was pretty good. But I used to love the surfing.
Yes, I love the surfing. Oh, you had to get so far away like that, didn't you, to get going, and then you do them loops. Once you got good at it, we played it a few months ago. Dave was terrible, absolutely terrible. But as a kid, it was amazing at it. Now I'm awful at it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Did you have a Mega Drive?
No, so I think I skipped that, and then I think because you're getting onto the time when I moved away from home, so I went off to university or college, if you're listening, in the US, and so there are a few. So I still carried on gaming, but that was not that sort of console. I was lucky if I could afford a packet of biscuits, the week. So I didn't have money for games or a console to take away with me, but still rustled up, a few 10p's and 20p's to put in the arcade machine. So I was mostly, we had a Street Fighter game. And I honestly, when I started that, I wasn't very good at it. I was a bit late to the Street Fighter front. But then I just obsessively kept playing it, and then it got to the point where my mates wouldn't play me anymore. Oh, Dave's on, and I'm saying that as if I'm proud of it. It's pretty pathetic to spend that much time on it, And but I do remember there was a game. I can't remember what it was called. It would have been about 95-ish, and it was up at the student union. And I used to play with my mate Mark there, and we were playing each other. And again, just being a bloody obsessive gamer, I just got to the point where I was quite a bit better than him. So I used to hammer him every time. So it's not fun when it's like that. Yeah. So we started trying to play on the same side and beat the computer and win the World Cup and complete the game. And I still remember it now. It took us months and months, and then eventually it was like probably about midway through, maybe 9 or 10 o'clock on a Thursday night or something. So everyone's out drinking and everything, and we're tucked around the back on this football arcade game, and we completed the bugger. And I tell you, the joy, if I scored a goal in the cup final, I can't imagine the joy would be any more than that. It's just an unbelievable, because we'd worked for months trying to complete this thing. And so it was mostly the arcade stuff for a few years. And then I think this must have been about 96-ish that the first PlayStation console came out.
Yeah, good call, Dave. Very good.
Was it so
95, 96, yeah.
95, 96. So it was around then, and I remember FIFA 96, and which had played, and so we did get that console. We got FIFA 96, and it was all right. The graphics again were another step up, but playability wise, it wasn't quite right. And so frustrating little things like if you chipped a long ball, the keeper wouldn't recognize it as a shot, so would just stand there and watch it go in, which if you're playing your mates and that, it's tremendously funny. But if your mate sort of smashing the place up, so played that, and actually we'll probably bring it full circle here and talk a little bit about Pro Evo, because I remember, again, it must have been about that same time, but I think I'd been playing FIFA already. And then we went into the town centre, and we were just looking around, trying out the new games and whatever. And they had ISS Pro up there as a demo. And so it was the old. Do you remember the Electronics Boutique?
Yeah. Used to have one in Manchester, yeah.
Yeah. So started playing it, and the playability, it's pretty good. A bit similar to FIFA. And then we discovered the triangle button, which I don't know if is it the same now. Yeah, I think it's even the same now, isn't it? Yeah. And it put a through pass in, and just that changed everything. Because before, like say, when you've been passing and it goes directly to the player, and or you could, in FIFA it was terrible, because you could just get the quickest player on the pitch, get Michael Owen or someone like that, and just hammer away at the sprint button, and he just legs it around all the players and scores a goal. So not realistic at all. Whereas that through pass just changed it all for me. And so went ahead and bought that, and again, just played that until we nearly wore out the disc. It was just, for me at that time, it was head and shoulders above anything else on the market, and definitely including FIFA in that. It was just so good. And for the next few years, every time there was a new version, would get that out. But then I probably, from listening to your podcast, it probably sounds like I got out at the right time, because I'm sure it was about 6 or something like that, where your family starts to expand, your disposable income shrinks a bit, so you can't keep up with each new version. So it was only in the last few years again I've got back into it, and to be honest, now I play FIFA mostly.
Yeah, I do. I do myself. I think Pro Evo 5 and 6 for me with its peak. I mean, I've said it loads of times, and it's good to hear sort of your timeline of games and the evolution. Obviously, because we're big football fans as well. To be at that, like I say, I remember ISS and stuff just being a revelation at the time, thinking, what the hell is this? Like you were saying before, what is this sorcery? Thinking, I just can't do anything on it. I'm terrible, and then something clicks after so many games and you were like, wow. And I think what you said's right. I mean, we've played against each other. I remember being in the band playing the old Pro Evos a couple of times and stuff like that. And it wasn't all the time, but we did have a few games because obviously we were out gigging most of the time. But I think as well, it's a strange timeline with football games because now FIFA does so much right, and Pro Evo's just. I know you haven't played Pro Evo, Dave, and at the moment, I'd probably say I wouldn't go near it. If you want that footballing itch, then you do go to FIFA, because obviously that's no disrespect to you, but as like someone who's probably quite a casual player who just wants to pick it up, play, have a few games. If a friend comes round, throw it on. You can't go wrong with FIFA. That's the sad state of it. But it's personal choice as well. I've enjoyed some FIFAs. I've enjoyed some Pro Evos over the last few years. It's just unfortunately, like you said, you listened to the podcast. The way it's gone, it's more living off a name now, Pro Evo, and it's living off a name where people like me and you of our age remember it for how good it is. The young kids don't ever remember Pro Evo being good. There's very few. There's a couple, don't get me wrong, who've corrected me saying, look, I remember Pro Evo when I was like 7, 8 years old. And they're right, like say the PES 6 or something like that. And they're now like 18, 19, 20. That's no disrespect, but you're not going to get many 10, 11, 12, 13-year-olds remembering any great Pro Evos in their sort of gaming life. Yeah. And that's the sad. This is just the way it is, unfortunately. It's just not the game it was. Its gameplay surpassed everything, whether it didn't have the licenses, it had United playing at the Tradbrick Stadium now, because the game isn't as good. You know what I mean? It's true. It's the game. I mean, Liverpool are fully licensed on Pro Evo. I'm
Liverpool at 2-0 up, you mean?
Is they 2-0 up now? This is a disgrace.
We might have to stretch this baby out.
For 90 minutes. Well, I'll be like this by the end of it. I'm going lower and lower as it's going on.
Yeah.
I'm just fucking glad that Brad's not coming. That would have just made it even worse. Oh my God.
Yeah. So, what are you saying about the commentary as well? I remember in the first Pro Evo, I'm sure, or ISS as it was then, I'm sure Wales were unusually quite good in it. And, but the commentator, and I don't know if you can get this on your retro, but I don't know if you can play the original one, but I just remember the commentator shouting like Wales, and so I used to have a listen to it. I used to love winding my mate up who I used to play with, Mark, a lot, and because it twists the knife a little bit more, if you were playing someone like Wales and he's Brazil or something, and then you score a goal, and it's like Wales. Oh, brilliant! But
yeah, I'll have to. Which one's that? ISS or Pro Evos?
I think that was the first ISS.
I've got that on the PS1. I've got the original ISSs, both of them.
Give it a go. And actually, you know what? I think it might be. We might have been playing around with the commentary. I think we might have switched it onto German or something like that.
Yeah.
Again, it's just a sign, really, isn't it, that you just played it too much at that time, that you were fiddling about with all these extra controls. I'm pretty sure Play Wales.
I'll have to do it
in German.
I'll put it on because
on YouTube.
Yeah, Chris gets beat again. Yeah, I will. I'll put it on because we were the same. Some of the commentary stuff. I remember Pro Evo 1 and obviously PS2, and it was there's a statement that's just so random. It's something like, and the wind is sweeping through the stadium, and I can't remember the whole line, but it's just something so ridiculous. You're like, that doesn't make any sense at all. You know what I mean? It doesn't make any. It's not in context with what's actually going on. It's just a generic thing. And then I laughed at. I've said it a few times, but this game I've got with Jack Charlton commentating just trumps all of them. It's just the most ridiculous commentary. Sega Worldwide Soccer on the Sega Saturn, Dave. It's the worst commentary I have ever heard. He just doesn't make.
Fair, he doesn't do much commentary now, does he? But
no,
I don't think his actual commentary was much better.
No, it was.
I think it was 92 European Championships, and it still sticks in my mind now that do you remember Carlton Palmer?
Yeah, Thomas Brolin scored Gary Lineker's last game.
Yeah, that's the one. But I can't remember which game it was, but Jack Charlton called Carlton Palmer. It must have been about 20 different names. And it's not that difficult a name, really.
No.
And he was like, it's Charlton Palmfield, It's just this ridiculous combination of getting his name wrong almost every time. It just sticks out in my mind. But so I'm not sure the real life version will be any better than the computer version.
No. I used to love thinking David Pleat because he must have a bet with somebody to call everyone's name wrong. Like Cantona, he always used to go, and we've got Cantona on the ball. It's like nobody calls him Cantona but you, mate. You know what I mean? Like you just get just the most stupid names. I don't know what he was playing at. I know he used to say to me, Dad, and I was that saying he must be getting paid or having a bet with somebody to just call these names wrong. They were just totally just nonsensical what he was saying, just total absolute nonsense. And they weren't even I know obviously Cantona was French, but they weren't even foreign players half the time. And you're thinking even a person wouldn't call himself that, it's just total generic nonsense. But yeah, I used to love David Pleat, absolute clown.
Yeah.
So anyway, Dave, I've got a little section. Thank you for giving us all that. I want to do. It's a little section I'm going to bring in. I've had a couple of comments. I've asked for feedback on the podcast, and one of the things was people said you should have maybe a section. Every time you have a new guest on, you ask them a couple of questions. So I've got a couple of questions for you. Nothing major. And then I've got a retro rewind section on a game that if anyone out there has got the old systems or has emulators, which you can use on, your Macs or PCs, are quite easy to give them a go, if that's okay. So this is you've pretty much answered these anyway by what we've talked about. So as a gamer and having a very good history of gaming, and we can say that, what would you say? You are?
Being old. Go on.
Yeah, being old. Older than me. But yeah, anyway, are you older than me, Dave?
Yeah, a little bit. I think a couple of years.
Was you 41?
Yeah.
Yeah, good work. Yeah. Anyway, so you got more experience. So anyway, first one is, what would you say is your ultimate retro game? Now, when you look back, whether it be for the gameplay or whether it be just for, meaning something in your life.
So, crikey, that is a lot to choose from. That is tough because you think this is going to sound a little bit rigged. I think. I mean, all those games that we talked about, the Double Dragons, the Chucky Eggs, Outrun, all of those, I've got real fond memories of. But I think especially now, because whenever I put a game on, it's always a football game, because I don't have time to get involved, in these long stories. I played that Batman Arkham Asylum, quite a bit. It's absolutely fantastic, but I don't have time to devote to this and then when I pick it up again in 2 weeks' time. I'm like, where the hell was I? What happened here? So I probably gravitate more towards the football games, and like I say, not rigged, but I'd have to say that International Superstar Soccer Pro game probably was a pivotal moment for me. That it just the games, and this is the other weird thing about now, isn't it? Because you only seem to have FIFA and Pro Evo, whereas there were so many football games on the market, but year on year they would get gradually a bit better in terms of the graphics, in terms of the gameplay. But that Pro Evo took a massive leap. I keep calling it Pro Evo. It wasn't Pro Evo then. It was RSS. So
Pro Evo on the PS2.
Yeah. So on the original PlayStation, that was the one for me that just propelled a football game from being something a bit silly, like sensible soccer with the little sprites running around, the unrealistic curl the aftertouch that you put on the ball, and then it made it something that actually seemed realistic. So I'm going to say ISS.
Good stuff. A man after my own heart. And then leading on to that, what about is your favourite console, computer, or even arcade machine? What would you say give you the most enjoyment as a gamer? Whether it would probably I'd probably say console actually, because arcade's subjective because you're basically going to pick a game out with an arcade. But when it comes to consoles, what would you say was the one that gave you the most enjoyment?
Good question.
I don't ask many good ones, Dave, but
you didn't warn me about these.
No, I didn't.
First guinea pig. I mean, it's difficult, isn't it? Because the thing is, I'm tempted to say the latest one. Not just because with each console that comes out, they just take another leap forward, don't they? And they're so much better than the last one. And like I say, if I look back at those old games, I think just you'd have to say the best one, PS4 for me. So I don't do the Xbox; it's all PlayStation for me. Yeah. And so I'd have to say that. But again, I guess if I was to, I obviously don't play nearly as much as I used to. So again, in terms of just propelling and leaping forward, I'd probably go the original. That first generation PlayStation for me was just such a leap forward, and again, just putting that realism. It doesn't look realistic looking back now, but coming the other way, seeing all the other stuff that led up to it, just for me, that was a pivotal console, if not the best.
No, and I think a little bit of trivia for you there, Dave. Originally, the PS1 was going to be a Nintendo system. Sony were going to pretty much build the console, and it was going in conjunction with Nintendo as like a replacement for the SNES. Mm-hmm. And then at the last minute, everything fell apart, and Sony ended up going up on their own, and that's how the PlayStation was born.
Yeah.
There was actually concepts of a Nintendo PlayStation system, which was obviously not Sony built sort of thing. So anyway, bit of trivia for you there, Dave.
Cool. What I was thinking as well, I mean, for maybe a bit of a left field one, but just in terms of pure fun, I think when that first Nintendo Wii came out, I thought they played a blinder because, they couldn't compete with Sony in terms of just the graphics, the playability. I think was it the PlayStation 2 or the PlayStation 3? PS3 when they introduced the Blu-ray.
Yeah.
And Nintendo obviously weren't going to compete with that. But just in terms of pure fun, being able to play the old bowling and smashing your telly by accidentally releasing the controller and stuff like that, that was a good little fun console as well.
Yeah, I think it latched on to the fact that the Xbox 360 and PS3 had gone down a more serious route with gaming, where big AAA games like Grand Theft Autos and Call of Duties were dictating the landscape of where everything was going online. And then the Wii sort of brought it back to what gaming was for us as we were young. I enjoyed a lot of time playing the bowling and stuff on the Wii Sports and that, and the archery. And as a family, it was the only console really where me, Sam and Jordan and the other family had come round and you'd play it. And then obviously that sort of died on its backside all of a sudden. It went from being one of the biggest selling consoles ever to sort of everyone was like, well, we've done it now. We don't need to keep bringing out an archery or a darts game. Or, I just got bored of it very quickly. But the actual idea of the console, I totally agree with. It was a very, very niche console which just appealed to the masses, and the sales dictated that. That's like the Nintendo Switch now. The new Nintendo Switch, the Wii U that replaced the Wii, was a bit of a turkey, really. It didn't sell anywhere near as good, but this new Nintendo Switch that's come out has just it surpassed the Wii U already months ago in its not even in its first year properly. So that again, that appeals to a different audience, and I agree. It's a good call, that one. Very good call. And then the last question, Dave. Now maybe I should have. Yeah, I've got another one. If this is a totally left field question, I promise you, this one. If you could transport yourself into any gaming world, where would it be?
Crikey. I think now. I don't know. They're all pretty brutal, aren't they? You know, if you transport yourself into Gears of War or something like that, I can't imagine that'd be much fun. I mean, you'd have to go California Games, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Nice.
It seems pretty fun. I mean, California itself is a pretty fun place. I know. I guess they take all the good things, all the shiny, polished things out of California, don't they? And just project that on there.
Now, Dave, you missed the trick there. You should have said Grand Theft Auto, because you can drive around stealing cars, killing people, and pricking prostitutes up. But anyway, that's
oh, that's not me though. I'd
no.
Taking out the car.
And always when you play stuff like Grand Theft Auto and you see people and they'll go, he's been watching Grand Theft Auto too much. You know, like when just some guy does like an OJ Simpson and goes on a 20 cars, you know, and they blame it on the computer game. He's like, no, he's just a lunatic, you know. But yeah, very good call, like California Games. So I'll take that one.
I was thinking you must have saw Pixels, obviously.
I've not watched it properly.
You not watched it? Oh, right.
No.
I'm not going to spoil it for you. You have to watch it though.
Right, okay. Especially
if you're a gamer, you've got to watch it. Or I should say, if you're an old gamer, to the kids, it won't make any sense whatsoever. But
to us,
lots
Peter Dinklage in it.
Yeah, he's in there. But just lots of you know, kind of the in jokes and whatever, and just looking back at all these retro games that you used to have. So it's brilliant. Really good.
I'll get on it. I'll watch it this week, Dave. I know it's the sort of thing that's been on my radar, and the reviews are very mixed because it's on Netflix, isn't it now? And I've seen it loads of times and put it in my watch list and just never got further than the first 5 minutes and then turned it off. I need to watch it. Is it Adam Sandler?
It is, yeah. But apart from that, it's still good.
Good call. So what I wanted to do, this little section I'm bringing in is called, it's a retro rewind, and I don't know whether you played this game, but it's a game that I had on my Master System, and I've got it on my emulators on my Xbox, which I've just soft modded, my RetroPie, and obviously I've got my original Master System. I haven't got the game in original cartridge form, but anyone out there who's into platforms, obviously Sega had Sonic and Nintendo had Mario, but then Sega brought a couple of other platformers out, like honourable mentions to Mickey Mouse Castle of Illusion. Used to love that game. Have you ever played that, Dave?
No.
Good game.
That one.
Well, it's a game that I'm going to bring in. It's more of a family reference. It came out in about 89 on the Master System. I don't think I got it till the 1990s. I don't know whether in the early 1990s. I don't know if it's because it had not been released in the UK, because we always used to get the games later. Mm-hmm. But it's a game called Psycho Fox on the Master System, and you were a little orange fox. Obviously, it's just a basic platform. Yeah, you were psycho, really. And he had a little guy with him. He used a little bird thing that he used to carry, and he was like a bit like an armor thing. And basically, he was like a Mario type thing. Birdfly, he was called. And he carried him with you, and you picked him up at certain points in the game. And I remember playing it a hell of a lot. It was one of these weird games to the Master System that we just took to. I don't even know how we ended up getting it. I don't know whether it was a Christmas present one year, because I remember the first games I got on the Master System were Kung Fu Kid, World Grand Prix. We had this. I remember getting the snail game on there. You had to unlock that. And I think they were the first two games, but I think we got Psycho Fox bought us as a present. But it was one of the games that I really enjoyed. So if anyone out there's got these old emulators on there, like OpenEMU and that on your PCs or Macs or whatever, it's a cracking game. Get downloading on it. Or if you've got the old retro consoles, I highly recommend it. So I'll put some links on and some videos of Psycho Fox. You can see what I was going on about. Even now it's playable. I think what we were saying, Dave, a lot of the footy games, and I've said this before, sports games, they don't translate very well in this day and age. But when it comes to platforms and like Super Mario and things like that, you can always get a tune out of them, and you can enjoy the game. Unfortunately, there's no save points on them, which is a killer. But it's one of them you can pick up a good platform, and no matter what era it's from, and enjoy it. That's what I always find. So, but yeah, that's where I'm at, really. I think we're at the end of the show, Dave. I just want to thank you for coming on. I'm going to put all the links up for the Grassroots Coach Cast. Please give Dave and Ben a follow. They're really good guys, well-produced podcast. And obviously, Dave's probably going to be on again at some point. We'll talk in all sorts. I'm going to make sure that United haven't just played and got beat, and that Liverpool aren't winning 2-0 as we do the podcast.
A difficult one to schedule, that.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a killer, this one. I mean, it's a really good time slot, actually, for us both. Obviously, it's dependent on the football, because obviously when we got Old Trafford and that, for the games, but it just worked out really well. I can't thank you enough for coming on, Dave. It's been really good. And if you want to drop any social media promos, you can go for it now, mate.
Yeah, no, it's been brilliant. It's been great to be on, Chris. Great to catch up as always. Yeah. And cheers for having us on.
And where can everyone find you on Twitter and that, Dave?
So you can email us at grassrootscoachcast@gmail.com. And we're also on Twitter at grootscoachcast as well. So yeah, if people want to drop us a line, ask us any questions about the show. We've got a couple at the moment. We've just been it's just been Ben and I talking through various subjects, and then probably in the upcoming months we'll have some guests on as well. We just wanted to fine tune that recording process first, and so drop us a line.
Oh, thanks, Dave. That's been great. So I'm looking at Tuesday, Thursday for episode 32. Steve O's definitely coming on, but I think the first one's going to be with Mr. Masonic Gamer, Brad, my good mate, who we play PUBG with, and we've started streaming together on Mixer. So we've got a couple of things planned. I think we're going to talk about sort of how you get your streaming setups, because we've both had a nightmare. And unfortunately, you've got to sort of invest heavily. I'm trying to do it on the cheap sort of council estate route, which I grew up on, for about £3.50. And it's just giving me no end of nightmares and workarounds I'm supposed to be doing, Dave. It's an absolute nightmare. But Brad's gone down the proper route and bought all the gear. So it's just one of them where we will have a chat about that, because that streaming seems to be, it's not something new. It's been out for a few years, but it's a massive part of gaming now, and esports and things like that. So I think we're going to have a bit of a chat about that. And he knows more than me. So that's probably going to be Tuesday afternoon. We'll get that one up. But yeah, so thanks for coming on, Dave. And this has been episode 31 of the Contextual Podcast. Take care, Dave.
Cheers, Chris. See you now.
Take care, everyone. Bye.